Hey Stoic friends, welcome back to my channel. Have you ever sat in silence so thick it felt like the universe slammed a door shut inside your chest? Like something cracked inside you, but not like breaking, more like hatching. Like the part of you that used to react, panic, overthink, cry, beg, finally died. And in its place, a ghost version of you, silent, sharpened, staring into nothing, and somehow understanding everything. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're just done pretending. You're done chasing people who never cared. Done explaining yourself to minds too small to hold your truth. And in that death of reaction, you rise. There's a version of you that used to fall apart at the slightest change in someone's tone. You felt everything too hard, gave too much, forgave too fast. You'd lie awake trying to decode silence, trying to make everyone feel okay, even when you were bleeding. But now you're a different creature. You hear silence and feel peace, not panic. You hear lies and just nod. People leave and you don't even turn around. Because you've reached a level of inner violence that no one sees, but everyone feels. A quiet storm. A man who doesn't flinch anymore because he's already been through hell and decided he liked the view. They think you've gone cold. They think you stopped caring, but they have no idea. You didn't go numb. You went nuclear. You're not ignoring them. You've simply stopped handing your soul to people with dirty hands. You're not being distant. You're guarding the empire you built in your suffering. They don't know what it took to get here. The nights you couldn't breathe. The mornings you didn't want to wake up. The days where your body moved, but your soul was dragging behind like a corpse. And still, you rose. You learned how to bleed without showing it, how to cry without a sound, how to burn everything you loved, and walk through the ashes like you never needed it in the first place. This isn't growth. That word is too soft. This is mutation. This is what happens when a man stops trying to be understood and starts becoming unreadable. You don't explain anymore. You don't argue. You don't prove. You simply watch, observe, and evolve. Because now, your silence speaks 10 languages. Your stillness carries the weight of 1,000 wars. You walk into rooms and change the temperature with your energy alone. They don't know whether to approach you, fear you, or worship the discipline it took to become this silent, this still, this untouchable. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not a quote. That's a battle cry. It's not for the man who needs reassurance. It's for the one who's been burned, betrayed, backstabbed, broken, and still built something in the silence. It's for the man who's been insulted so often that words don't hurt anymore. They just echo in empty spaces. The man who could destroy with truth, but chooses silence instead. Because now, you don't react to chaos. You let it destroy itself. This video isn't motivation. This is ritual fire for the ones who are too awake to be fooled anymore. For the ones who are dangerous because they've suffered and didn't become victims. For the men building legacies in silence, who don't post about it, who don't beg for credit. They're silent not because they have nothing to say, but because they've seen too much, survived too much, and now their soul doesn't speak unless it's war. If you're listening to this and your skin is tingling, that's not goosebumps. That's your future self trying to break through your bones. So don't scroll past this. Let this be your mirror. Let this wreck you open and remake you in your own image. Like the video if your blood is awake now. Share it only if you know someone in the fire. Subscribe if your silence has been building into something divine. And in the comments below, don't write a sentence. Drop a warning. My silence is becoming my greatest weapon. Because when you finally return to the battlefield after building yourself in the dark, even fate will hesitate to stand in your path. Now let's go, my friends. Number 1. You stop believing in words and start paying attention to patterns. You used to hang on to every word like it meant something, like their promises were sacred, like their "I'll never hurt you" was carved in stone. They spoke, and you listened, hoping, waiting, trusting that this time, this person would be different. You held on to texts like lifelines, smiled at screens that lit up with names you'd bleed for. But all it took was silence, followed by more silence. One ghost, one lie, one apology too many. That's how it started. Not with rage, but with heartbreak so sharp it rewired your brain. And after that, you never believed a word again. No thunder cracked, no alarms blared, just a quiet shift. One moment you were hopeful, and the next you were staring through people like glass. That's what happens when reality smashes fantasy into pieces. You stop begging for honesty and start noticing patterns. They say they're loyal, but their attention span can't last longer than a trend. They say you matter, but their energy shows up when it's convenient. They say it's love, but it feels more like control. You watch, you study, you stop speaking, because now you understand. Words are costumes, but patterns are confessions. The most dangerous kind of intelligence doesn't come from books. It comes from breakdowns. It's born in the wreckage of who you used to be. It rises from every moment you stared at a door that would never open again. From the nights you screamed into pillows and still answered their message the next morning. From realizing that you were the only one who ever meant what they said. That pain, that silence, that betrayal. It carved something into you, not weakness, not bitterness, precision. Now you walk through fire with your eyes open and your heart locked. They can speak all they want. You're not listening. You're watching. You used to ask, why did they hurt me? Now you ask, why did I stay? That shift right there, that's the kill switch. That's when the manipulation fails. That's when charm stops working. Because now your mind doesn't chase closure. It collects data, like a machine, cold, focused, calculating. You see the red flags before they turn into fires. You catch the inconsistencies mid-sentence. You can smell a lie in a smile. You're not the same. You've become the warning they ignored until it was too late. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." But you're not surrounded by people who seek truth. You're surrounded by actors, rehearsing sincerity. And while they're busy performing, you're already gone. No speech, no second chance, no mercy. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standards. You don't slam doors. You disappear into silence so thick it suffocates their ego. You've mastered the art of vanishing without explanation, and that scares them more than any scream. Now, you no longer fall for words that sound pretty. You fall back when patterns look ugly. You don't care what they promise. You care what they repeat. You don't care how loud they speak. You care how consistent they show up. You've stopped romanticizing potential and started decoding patterns like a language only survivors can understand. And when you see it, the same rhythm, the same cycle, the same manipulation, you don't argue. You leave, with your mind sharper than regret and your soul quieter than ever. Type this in the comments and let the world feel the shift in your voice. I trust patterns, not promises. Number 2. You master the art of pausing before you respond. Most people explode like firecrackers. bright, loud, and gone before anyone can catch the pieces. They react with a blind fury, flailing in the dark, driven by every whisper of insult, every shadow of doubt. They crash and burn, caught in the cyclone of their own emotions, never stopping to breathe, never stopping to think. But you were forged in the furnace of endless chaos. You lost battles you didn't even know you were fighting, battles where the enemy wasn't the other person, but your own impulsive fire. You paid with bruised ribs and broken trust, and you learned the most dangerous lesson: power is born in silence. In that razor-edge moment where the world demands you react, you don't. You freeze time. You build a black hole of stillness between the trigger and the response, and in that void, your true strength explodes. The pause isn't weakness. It's the eye of your hurricane, the calm before your storm. It's the shadow you cast that hides the predator waiting beneath calm waters. You don't shut off your emotions, you trap them, lock them in a cage made of patience and cold calculation. You've stared into the pit of your fury and refused to jump. You watched anger claw at your throat like a starving beast, and instead of letting it rip you apart, you tamed it, until that raw, screaming chaos turned into ice-cold clarity. That split second, that pregnant silence, is your secret weapon. When they shove lies and venom in your face, you breathe like a mountain. When the noise swells into a tsunami begging you to drown, you become a void, empty but infinite, unshakable, unbreakable. Their chaos is a spark, your pause, an ocean of dark calm, swallowing it whole. The world fears what it cannot provoke. They mistake your silence for weakness because they lack the guts to master their own minds. They fear the kind of power that doesn't scream for attention, but owns the room without uttering a word. Marcus Aurelius carved this into history. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? 1 second of losing control can blow up years of ironclad peace into ashes and dust. You've tasted that ruin, felt how quickly rage burns the bridges back to yourself, and you refuse to hand that power over again. You clutch the pause like a shield forged from every broken promise, every shattered illusion, every moment you were left bleeding on the battlefield of your emotions. You've become the shadow moving through light, the silent force that unsettles the loudest voices in the room. Your silence isn't empty. It's thick, dense, electric. Your eyes don't just see, they cut, they freeze, they unravel lies with a single glance. Your voice, when it breaks free from that silence, isn't just heard, it commands. You don't yell, you don't argue, you annihilate the noise with the gravity of your calm. You've transcended reaction. You've become the predator that waits, the storm that never has to roar to be feared. You don't play their games because you already own the board. Write this down in the comments like a battle cry etched in fire. My pause is my power. Number 3. You learn to cut off without guilt or announcement. There was a dark chapter when walking away felt like shattering your own soul. You were drowning in a swamp of guilt, an invisible noose strangling your voice, forcing you to explain every step like a criminal pleading innocence. You apologized for wanting silence, for craving peace, as if your needs were some selfish crime against others. You twisted yourself into knots, folding your spirit like fragile paper just to keep the illusion of comfort alive for someone else. Boundaries? You shattered them like glass underfoot, desperate to patch up broken connections, even when every fiber of your being screamed for escape. You begged, bargained, pleaded for permission to breathe. But now you are a wildfire blazing through the ruins of that old you. You've ripped away the guilt like a savage, torn the mask of over-explanation off your face, and realized something so brutal it shakes your core. Distance isn't desertion. It's an act of savage self-respect. And the smartest, most ferocious move you can make is to vanish quietly. No announcements, no spotlight, no fanfare. Just a ghost slipping through the cracks of a world that no longer serves you. You refuse to live in that soul-sucking theater where your worth is a currency you must endlessly beg to earn. You refuse to be a pawn in games where people only see you when their thirst demands. You won't run after ghosts who vanish the moment their shadows grow. When a person shows you their true colors, indifference, neglect, selfishness, you don't explode with rage or howl for justice. You subtract yourself with the precision of a surgeon wielding a scalpel. No noise, no chaos, just a cold, unbreakable withdrawal. You become a fortress of silence that says without words, "I am done." Because the truth burns deep. Some people were never meant to watch your rise, only to witness your survival. They are background noise in your symphony of growth. The smarter you get, the tighter the circle becomes, not out of pride, but because peace is a currency rarer than gold, and you won't spend it on counterfeit souls. Your silence becomes a weapon sharper than any blade, cutting through the chaos and carving out sacred space for your spirit to breathe. You become ruthless, not in cruelty, but in sacred self-preservation. You embody Marcus Aurelius's brutal wisdom. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. You don't strike back with fists or words. You ascend with a calm so fierce it unsettles even the darkest shadows. You carry no grudge, only lessons, scars transformed into armor. Your life screams louder than any insult or slight ever could. The silence you leave behind is deafening. It's a hurricane of unspoken truth that echoes louder than any fight. You stop explaining your silence because you owe no one an apology for protecting your soul. Your absence is not a void. It's a cathedral of power built from every broken promise and every betrayal you survived. You let the empty space speak with the weight of 1,000 storms. Because the fiercest strength isn't in shouting, it's in walking away with your head held high, cutting the toxic cords without guilt or ceremony. Your time, your love, your energy, they are sacred currency, no longer to be wasted on those who treat them like trash. This is your revolution, the savage reclamation of your life where you stop being a victim and start being a warrior. The silence you wield is your loudest battle cry. Number 4. You detach from outcomes and focus on effort. Most people are puppets tangled in the strings of outcome obsession, shaking with anxiety, not because they lack hustle, but because their minds are trapped in a brutal cage of what's next. They're desperate for control, the timing, the people, the minuscule details that flicker like shadows on the wall of their crumbling sanity. Their every breath is a battle with invisible demons of failure, rejection, and meaningless what-ifs. But you exploded out of that cage like a bomb tearing through the night. The second you severed your grasp on the outcome, your mind became a wild stallion, unbridled and untamed. Freedom isn't in the destination, it's in the raw, savage ride of the process itself. You don't live in the shaky ruins of fear anymore, that gnawing beast that chewed your insides and spit out doubt. You refuse to let the world's applause or silence be the ruler of your worth. You stare down the abyss of uncertainty with fists clenched and heart blazing, knowing that effort is your fierce, unrelenting weapon. Real growth doesn't roar on stage. It claws its way out from the bloody trenches of quiet, unseen struggle. Discipline isn't a show for the crowd. It's a brutal pact with yourself to keep grinding when no one's watching, to sweat when the world sleeps. Your energy is a wildfire focused on the process, not the illusion of reward. This mindset isn't just powerful, it's untouchable. It makes you a force of nature that bends reality. When you wield focus on effort, you wrest control back from the chaos that tries to consume you. You become a relentless machine fueled by iron will, showing up like clockwork, even when the world withholds validation. Because you know the truth whispered in the darkest hours, the seeds you plant in silence grow roots so ferocious they crack the bedrock of doubt beneath you. You don't crave miracles, you forge them from grit, blood, and sweat, moment by relentless moment. Your power isn't a gift. It's a battle-scarred masterpiece built in the shadows where the faint-hearted never dare to tread. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just a philosopher. He was a warrior speaking directly to your savage heart. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. That's your war cry now. You don't tremble in fear or drown in desperation. You confront the unknown like a gladiator walking into the arena, head high, soul fierce, every step a declaration of war on doubt. The future is a ghost trying to haunt your peace, but you meet it with cold, calculated fury and unbreakable calm. Your power is forged in the furnace of your present effort, not in the illusions of tomorrow. The smarter you get, the less you chase empty promises and illusions. You stop begging for an easy ride or praying for fewer storms. Instead, you pray for one savage truth: to remain unshaken in the hurricane, to stand unmoved when the world around you collapses like a house of cards. This is ruthless intelligence, the brutal wisdom to choose discipline over drama, grit over games, relentless action over panic. You become a predator stalking your own potential, silent but deadly, relentless in your pursuit, unstoppable in your conquest. The outcome no longer owns you. Your hunger for effort is the unquenchable fire that burns brighter than any fleeting victory. Number 5. You embrace loneliness as a tool, not a curse. This one slices through you like shattered glass sliding under your skin. It rips open the tender parts you thought were hidden, exposing every raw nerve. Because transformation isn't polite, it's savage. You lose, not just friends, but entire worlds you once lived in. Conversations dry up like dead rivers. People vanish like smoke blown away by a merciless wind. You're stranded, marooned on an island carved from silence and solitude, surrounded by a void so vast it threatens to swallow you whole. But here's the brutal truth no one warns you about: that crushing loneliness is the ruthless birthplace of your awakening. It's the dark crucible where your mind sharpens into a razor blade, where the endless noise, the mindless chatter, the distractions, the addictive chaos crumbles and dies. And in that death, your soul claws its way free, feeding on a savage, undeniable truth. You don't run anymore. You don't flinch or hide. You storm into solitude like a berserker unleashed, claiming it as your battlefield, your temple, your sanctuary. In the deafening silence, you stare down the demons you once buried, those twisted, scary thoughts you used to shove under the rug in desperate fear. Now you pull them into the light. You wrestle with them. You trap them in a cage of ruthless awareness until they wither and disappear. And in that fierce stillness, you find a version of yourself nobody warned you about. A version who doesn't beg for crumbs of validation, who doesn't break for escape, who laughs at the void and isn't scared of the darkness. That version of you isn't just strong. It's a goddamn weapon of raw power, untamed and unstoppable. Because a man who masters his own company becomes a fortress with walls so thick and cold, no outside force can breach them. He can't be bought with attention. He doesn't sell his soul for applause or hollow acceptance. He walks with a presence so heavy, so lethal, that even in empty rooms you feel the quake of his existence like an earthquake beneath your feet. That presence, raw, unfiltered, untouchable, terrifies the desperate masses addicted to noise, approval, and shallow connections. Marcus Aurelius knew this solitude intimately. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. That's the fortress you're building, stone by jagged stone, out of every broken promise, every lost ally, every blasted plan that crumbled in your hands. When people leave, your ground doesn't shake. It grows roots deeper than ever. When the world shatters around you, you don't crack. You become diamond hard, sharper than any blade. When chaos screams and claws at your door, you don't blink. You meet it with a silent roar that rips the sky apart. Because you hear something louder, something primal. Your own raw, unfiltered voice pounding in your chest, echoing off the walls of your mind. That clarity is your secret weapon. In a world drowning in distraction, it makes you a nightmare no one saw coming. Solitude doesn't break you. It hammers you in the fires of hell, reshaping you into something more savage than survival. Something ferocious, untouchable, and unstoppable. You have become a force of nature. A wild storm in a world that begs for calm, a blazing inferno that refuses to be tamed. Alone but never lonely, fierce and free. This is your goddamn power. You were never meant to stay small, never meant to fit inside the cramped little box society carved out for you with cold precision. Not mentally, where the chaos of your thoughts could ignite a revolution. Not emotionally, where your storm of feelings crashes like a tsunami, relentless and untamed. And hell no, not spiritually, where the fire inside you blazes hotter than the sun, demanding you burn down every limit they tried to chain you with. The moment you chose silence over reaction, peace over desperate applause, sweat over shortcuts, solitude over the mindless noise, that was the moment your soul went nuclear. It didn't happen by chance. It was a brutal war, fought tooth and nail in the deepest trenches of your being. You earned this damn transformation with every scream swallowed, every boundary drawn in blood, every shattered illusion left behind like ash in the wind. This is what being dangerously smart looks like. Not because you spew fancy words or cram your brain with hollow theories. Not because your voice booms louder than theirs, or you parade around like some self-made prophet. No, you became dangerously smart because you learned to listen to the savage voice inside, the raw, untamed beast that screams truth when the world begs you to whisper lies. You learned how to strike back with calm fury, how to move like a shadow, silent but lethal. You learned to walk away without a sound, without a scene, leaving behind only the cold echo of your absence to haunt their regrets. You stand now like an ancient titan, unshakable, rooted deep in your own truth, unmoved by the chaos that begs to drag you under. This is power so fierce, it doesn't beg for recognition. It breaks the mold of existence itself. Marcus Aurelius didn't hand down a rulebook on dominating others or bending the world to your will. He gave you the blueprint to conquer the bloodthirstiest battlefield there is, the war raging inside your own soul, to silence the maddening noise, to chain the wild horses of doubt and fear, to face the dark abyss and stare it down until it shrinks away in terror. You've become that warrior, not a conqueror of kingdoms, but a master of your own unbreakable spirit. And now, so are you. This is your call, your roar into the void. Write this affirmation in fire and blood. I have become dangerously smart. Stamp it into your bones. Let it thrum in your veins like a primal heartbeat. This is no mere statement. It's a declaration of war on weakness, a manifesto for the awakened souls who refuse to bow to the ordinary. If these words set your insides ablaze, if they cracked open the cage around your wild heart, then don't hold back. Smash that like. Blow up the comments. Share this wildfire with those still trapped in the dark. Subscribe and lock yourself into the path of relentless growth. Because this road, it's paved with trials for the warriors, not the cowards. It's not meant for the soft or the fragile. It's a savage rite of passage for those who stare into the chaos of existence and come back wielding lightning, for those who refuse to be dimmed, dulled, or defeated, for those who've sworn that smallness is a lie and greatness is the only truth they'll ever kneel to. And that raw, brutal, magnificent truth includes you.